Hey guys, David here with a new review on Marvel's Inhumans. Now, this is going to be somewhat of a fast-track review. I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet and to the point because I do have to get to work, so I'm going to make this as quick as possible. So we got the new episode 7 for Marvel's Inhumans, and this is actually the penultimate episode. It was staged for just 8 episodes, and here we are leading into the end game of where everything's going to come to a climax on Attilan for the royal family. And it's funny because even though after finishing the episode I thought, okay, this wasn't exactly one of the strongest episodes, I still consider that one episode that was mostly centered on Karnak to be the best. This came not only close to that, but I also think that this is probably the most Inhuman-y episode since I think the pilot. Even though the pilot had its fair share of problems, this felt like a very cleaned and polished version of that. And I can really appreciate that because for the first time in a real long time, goodbye fucking Hawaii. Hawaii's done. Like, we can officially say that Hawaii is done. Our characters have moved on after the supposed death of Gorgon. I'll get to that later on in a second. But our heroes, our main Inhumans, minus Gorgon, finally leave Earth, along with the scientists, to Attilan to find a slew of surprises. For one, prior to leaving Hawaii, look at that! That green guy from the very beginning of the first episode is alive. Look, that's not really a surprise at all. It really did not surprise me. I was like, okay, what's the point of having this guy be at the very beginning, have like a quick cameo or whatever, and then just never call attention to it? I mean, I know that that was kind of like a inciting incident for our heroes to kind of start talking about what's there to do in Attilan at the very beginning of the episode, and that's what led to Maximus' betrayal, but there was something about that character when it comes to his comic book roots and the way that he was presented at the very beginning that I'm like, I can't just like throw that away. And as soon as this episode started with the previously and it showed Triton getting shot, I'm like, he's coming back. He's back. And there he is. So not that big of a surprise. What I did think was very humorously surprising, mainly because Medusa was just like, had like the biggest what the fuck face the entire time, is that they go to a bunker on Attilan, which is rather strategic. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool, giving Maximus the slip, thinking that they went back to Earth, but they're there all along, sabotaging everything, and I thought that that was a really cool dynamic. I just wish that this family kind of got along a little bit better because they have progressed so much, and yet we have characters doing things that just kind of don't make sense. Like Karnak, he was being just a little bit too aggressive. I like that even Medusa calls out on him saying, hey, you're thinking more like Gorgon, and that's because it's true, you know, he was taking chances after his experience with the girl, the weed dealers, all that stuff. So if Gorgon were to have been alive during this certain part of the episode, I think he would have been much more calculated with his approach, and he would have spoken about that approach with the rest of the team. So I thought that was a little interesting dynamic. It's just that Medusa again saying, oh, we shouldn't kill people and all that stuff, to me it still feels weird, considering that this was a woman who was aiming another woman with a gun to get her to do stuff and to really press. It doesn't mesh completely. And I could almost say the same thing for Black Bolt. You know, he was very charismatic and stuff like that with the way that he was just not saying any dialogue, and then here out of nowhere he's like, yeah, I want to kill Maximus, and I'm like, I wish that, sure, you can say that Gorgon's death was a way for him to kind of extract that, but I just don't see any kind of progression, and that's because the writing was never really there to begin with, and I think at this point I should probably just surrender that. I probably should have surrendered that a long time ago with fucking Crystal, who again in this episode, oh my god, is like, what's wrong? I left the dude behind. I'm like, that's what you're thinking of right now? And then you got, what's her face? I can't remember her name, but the girl that can come back from the dead, who's Maximus' right-hand woman. She turns tail immediately, and I just did not understand the context. I really didn't. She was good all of a sudden, helping her out, helping Karnak out. I don't get it. I seriously don't get it. But what I do appreciate is that, like I said, it was the most Inhuman-y episodes, Inhuman one of the episodes since the very beginning. And one of the things I really appreciate is that I was often complaining about how Maximus was just sitting on the throne almost doing nothing, and they weren't really devoting that much time to him to really do anything. And now this episode finally fast-tracked that because they know that it's coming to an end. So it's like, okay, this is all focused on Maximus' plan, that deal that they made with Maximus, that they knew it was going to be betrayed, but I was hoping that there would be a backup plan, and so far it looks like there is. But I like that stuff is being dealt with on Attilan, and I'm like, okay, I can kind of get behind this. There's going to be an eventful clash, and this also reminded me that Ewan Rion, I think that's how you pronounce his name. It's a fucking weird ass name, but the dude from Game of Thrones who plays Maximus, I think he's a little too good for this. He's a little too good for a show like Inhumans, because there's that scene where he's getting ready for his second Terrigenesis, but then he feels like, you know, this is not what I wanted. I mean, that's what he wants, but he was hoping that it would go down a little bit different than the atmosphere or the environment that it's in. And there's something in his face and something in his performance that actually, for a fraction of a second, made me feel bad for Maximus. I was like, and the writing is not even to give credit to, because, like I said, the dialogue and the way that things are put together plot-wise and character-wise just doesn't make sense. Again, you had characters in here doing shit that doesn't really make that much sense, but Ewan Rion was able to sell it, and I think that he's just a little bit too good for shows like this, and I'm hoping that he gets some better work later down in his career, because he really is a truly remarkable actor, and he gave us one of the most famous and most love-to-hate villains that we had in the Game of Thrones mythology. So I'm hoping that he prospers beyond this, but he's definitely one of the highlights of the show in general. I just wish that we got more of what we got in this episode in prior episodes, instead of him just sitting around barking orders and doing stuff like this, because he was very underutilized and underappreciated. However, no amount of acting prowess can hide that stunt double during that fight scene with Triton. Oh my god, that was bad. Ewan, I mean, I'm sorry, dude, but I would really appreciate it if, along with your acting skills, you could probably take up some choreography, because they slapped a giant Halloween-ass wig on that dude. You can tell. There's certain shots where it looks embarrassingly bad. But I like that it led to a ending that I was like, okay, that's intriguing. You have like a little Joker-esque thing going on right there. Always like, if I die, the planet dies. I'm like, okay. It obviously couldn't end at this point. But it ends at a further point that was just like, it's probably one of the biggest Marvel influences within Inhumans. And by that I mean killing off a character and then bringing them back, thus negating that emotional punch that it could have had. We've seen it in Guardians of the Galaxy, we've seen it in so many other movies in the MCU, and now Inhumans doesn't look like it's safe from doing that, because look, Gorgon's back. And there's a very likely chance that he's going to be a good guy in the finale. Alright, that ominous like at the end of you don't have me fooled. And again, it just completely erases what I thought was a bold move by Inhumans to kill off one of its main characters in the royal family. And now look, it's undone. So what the fuck was the point of all that? So the level of fun that I had with those prior episodes, mainly that Karnak one, wasn't really found that much here, but I appreciated that it got things rolling. We're done with Hawaii, we're staying in Attilan, and it looks like a battle is about to ensue, and I'm hoping that that battle is good. I just hope that they can get away from this frequent, frenetic, jump-cutting editing that we see in some of these fight scenes, because I'm pretty sure that the fighting would be awesome. It's just that they keep cutting, and again, I talked about this. Devote to the violence. I'm sorry that sounds morbid, but devote to it, because you got Triton here slashing dudes with knives left and right, and we're getting the PG-13 Wolverine treatment where there's like no blood, and I'm like, well, don't do it. All right, use the powers, use your fists, do something. Don't use blades. Just don't do blades if you're not going to commit to it. And I'm hoping that, I mean, it's a very long stretch, but I'm hoping that they commit to our humans getting out of these clothes instead of looking like fucking Abercrombie and Fitch modeling, literally posing here, and maybe going into their original duds, maybe even some improvements where they actually look like they do in the comics, with the Black Bolt having his helmet. Medusa maybe finally gets her hair back out by going through Terrigenesis again. Who knows? That's some expectations, but it's Marvel's Inhumans. So anyways, I'm going to be giving episode 7 a solid 7 out of 10. Not a bad episode. I was enjoying it. I just wished I could have had much more fun than I had with the previous episodes. So anyways, that about does it. Gotta get to work. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of Marvel's Inhumans this week. In the comments, do you think that it was a step up? Do you think that they're leading to something kind of cool that can maybe redeem the show in the finale? And also make sure to support the video by hitting the like and share button, and subscribe to support the channel. Until next time, guys, see you later. And I can't get it out of my iPod either. It's on my iPod. I'm not kidding. My girlfriend caught me listening to it one time. She considered breaking up with me.